Hello dear students, good morning. So today I welcome all of you to today's class, English in the Digital World, and specifically we are going to focus on online communication and netiquettes. So these are the learning outcomes. By the end of this chapter, learners will be able to understand the principles and importance of effective online communication, demonstrate appropriate online etiquette, apply ethical and professional practices, identify common challenges in online communication, and use digital communication tools confidently. So first we will discuss what is online communication. What do we understand by online communication? So when we say online communication, it can be regarded as exchange of information over the internet through digital devices such as computers and smartphones. So we use computers, we use smartphones, and how do we use it? We use it through email, instant messaging, social media, video conferencing, and when we use Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, Telegram, that is also known as online communication. Next, when we look at online communication, it is divided into two types. One is synchronous communication and the other one is asynchronous communication. Now we must be wondering what is the meaning of synchronous communication and what is the meaning of asynchronous communication. So first we will come to synchronous communication. So when we look at synchronous communication, in very simple words, the meaning of synchronous communication is real-time communication. It means an online communication that happens in real time when both the receiver as well as the sender are present. Obviously, they are not physically present because it is online communication, but they are virtually present at the same time. So this real-time communication happens instantly like in a normal physical communication. So when we use Zoom or when we have Zoom classes for an example, or when we have classes on Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, these are known as synchronous communication. So whenever you remember during COVID, during pandemic, we all had Zoom classes, Google Meet classes. So those classes during pandemic, it helped both the teachers as well as students to communicate, to have classes in real time, right? So these are different examples, like you can see phone calls or different kind of meetings or lunch chats. So during lunch break, you chat with your friend. So that is also known as synchronous communication. Next, we will come to asynchronous communication. Now, what is asynchronous communication? Asynchronous communication happens where the sender and the receiver do not need to be online simultaneously. It means simultaneously they will not be there, but later, after the message is sent, later they can read the message, reply to the message. For an example, an email or a text message. So suppose somebody sends us an email. Are we always present there to check our email? Maybe not. We check it maybe after 30 minutes, maybe after 1 hour, or maybe after 2 hours. Okay. Or you all are aware of Reddit. You might be having some Reddit threads where you might have commented or you might have started also. So what happens in those kind of forums is somebody posts a message, somebody posts a comment, later somebody can go and read it and can post a message. So this kind of messages or this kind of communication is known as asynchronous communication, because here the sender as well as the receiver do not need to be present simultaneously. So emailing a colleague with project updates allows them to read and respond at their convenience. Means whenever they are free, they can check it and they can reply it. So somehow the pressure of being present is quite less in asynchronous communication. Now we will look at this picture where we have see we have got the uh, difference between synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. If we look at synchronous communication, it requires both parties to be present simultaneously. That is what we discussed. Whereas in asynchronous communication, it can happen at different times with time gaps between responses. In synchronous communication, the best part is there is immediate response. For an example, let's again take the example of a Zoom class. So the teacher is present, the student is present. Suppose the student is not able to understand something. What the student will do, the student will ask the question to the teacher and the teacher can clarify it. So it will have immediate response. But these kind of responses are not available in asynchronous communication. Delayed responses based on the recipient's availability. For an example, let's say an email. We have got an email, but then we have a doubt regarding that email. We want to ask some question. So again, we will reply to that mail asking that question. Then that person, when the receiver will be free, will read it and will reply. So the response is there, but it is not immediate. It is not instant. So in synchronous communication, both sender and receiver need to be present at the same time, whereas in asynchronous communication, no need for both parties to be available simultaneously. When we look at synchronous communication, it is always best for urgent and quick decision. Suppose we want to have a discussion, we want to have a meeting where we need to take a decision, then synchronous communication is the best. But something which is non-urgent or thoughtful communication, what is the meaning of thoughtful communication? Maybe you will think and then you will take a decision and then you will inform, then you can always choose for asynchronous communication. So now let's have examples like synchronous communication. We have video conferences, whereas asynchronous communication, the best example is emails. In synchronous communication, we have audio calls, video calls, asynchronous communication where we have message boards. So one-to-one meeting, any kind of one-to-one meeting, video call, Zoom meeting, Skype meeting are known as synchronous. Dashboards are known as asynchronous. Team building activities, brainstorming session can happen on synchronous communication, whereas any kind of feedback that takes a little bit more time or any kind of announcement can happen in asynchronous communication. Then one-to-one performance review is also an example of synchronous communication, whereas in asynchronous communication, some training can happen. The training video can be uploaded and somebody can read it on their own time. Any kind of hiring interview will always be done on synchronous communication, whereas any kind of a corporate decision making or something which is not urgent, it can be sent through asynchronous communication and later somebody can come back and answer. Now we will have a look at the tools for synchronous communication. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? Now when we look at the synchronous communication, advantages are instant responses, live discussions, better for team collaboration and interactive session. There can be better team collaboration, there can be a feeling of teamwork because people all will be present, can talk to each other and the session can be more interactive. Whereas when we look at disadvantage, it requires stable internet. You must remember your Zoom classes during pandemic. Most of the time the teacher asks, am I audible? Am I visible? Or the students or the teacher might say that you are not audible or you are not visible. Why? Because not everybody's internet is same. Not everybody's internet is fast or stable. So that is one disadvantage we have in synchronous communication. Also time zone issues, because in corporate sector what happened, there are many multinational companies. So when you look at countries like America or countries like Canada, they have almost 12 hours time difference from Indian timing. If you look at Europe, it usually have 6 to 7 hours of time gap. So when we have a meeting with our colleague who is in America or in Canada or in Europe, there will be time zone issues. Sometimes it is possible that it is midnight for us and for them it is 12 o'clock in the day. So having meetings during that time can be very difficult. So these are the disadvantages for synchronous communication. Next, we will see the advantages and disadvantages for asynchronous communication. If you look at the advantages, flexibility to respond at any time. So whenever we are free, we can respond. We don't have to be present anywhere to answer to the query. So that is one advantage. And then detailed and thoughtful communication. Suppose you are asked to speak or give an answer in asynchronous communication, how much you can speak? Maybe you will speak highest. If you look at the time, maybe the longest conversation or an answer will be for 5 minutes. We cannot speak more than 5 minutes on an online meeting. But a detailed communication can happen over email or over a document which is sent through email. You can take time, you can think, you can decide, then you can write a very long mail or a very long document and you can send. So these are the advantages of asynchronous communication. Whereas the disadvantage, if you look at the disadvantage, it is just the advantage of synchronous communication. For an example, delayed response. So the response will be late. If we want to get a response simultaneously or quickly, we might not get. And lack of immediate clarification. Obviously, for an example, just imagine I am writing a mail asking for something. Then you answer me after 4 hours, and then again I have a question on that mail and I want to ask another question to you, and I will send a mail again, you will answer me after 4 hours or reply to that mail after 4 hours. So it takes almost 8 hours to 10 hours to get a reply, whereas it can happen only within 1 minute in synchronous communication. Correct? So these were the advantages and disadvantages of uh, asynchronous and synchronous communication. Now we will look at the pros and cons of online communication. If we look at the advantages, global reach, communicate with anyone and anywhere. So we know that the world is a global village. So online communication has made it very easy for the global reach. We can talk to anyone anywhere. It is time and cost efficient. We don't have to travel anywhere to talk to anyone, and no need for physical travel. We don't have to travel and we can just talk to them. But disadvantage is digital fatigue. Extended hours online can lead to exhaustion. You all can again remember, go back to the pandemic era, how sitting in front of the laptop or phone for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours were very difficult, because it is extremely difficult for sit in front of the laptop for a long time for any kind of meeting or any, even for education purposes. So that is one advantage. And misunderstanding, lack of facial expression or tone. See, when you are present physically, then you can see somebody's face, you can see their body language, you can see their facial expression, you will know that what they want to say, what they want to speak. But when it becomes online communication, it becomes extremely difficult to understand what exactly is their intention. Sometimes it can be sarcastic, but we might not understand. So some kind of misunderstanding in communication happens in online communication. So these are the pros and cons. We have already discussed the flexibility in asynchronous and the immediate feedback. So this is just a brushing up your memory or what we have already discussed. Now, when we are looking at online communication and synchronous and asynchronous communication, something which is extremely important, which we must follow, that is netiquettes. It means acceptable online rules and behavior. So it is a combination of two words, net plus etiquette. Net means internet, etiquette means behavior. So netiquette means acceptable or good online rules and behavior. So netiquette, if you want to know the definition, it is a set of rules for acceptable online behavior, which is under the key principles of being respectful. Whenever we are having any online communication, we should always be respectful. We should avoid offensive language. We should not insult somebody. We should not humiliate anyone. We should not misbehave with anyone with our words. Avoid all caps, because when we use all caps, it means we are shouting. So in online language, it is known as yelling or shouting, which is not a good behavior. So when we are typing, only we will type the first, maybe the first letter of a sentence in capital, or where it is required, not always. And then another very important example of netiquette is to stay on topic. Don't derail conversation, because it is an online communication. Nobody has, lots of time, and everybody is just sitting in front of their phone and laptop. So we must stay on topic. We will not divert from the conversation. And when we are using social media, because social media is a very important part of everybody's life these days. So when we are looking at social media etiquettes, the key principles, so be mindful of what you post, and always avoid spreading misinformation, because spreading in misinformation has become very common in today's era. So we should be very responsible when it comes to using social media, and we will avoid spreading misinformation. Respect others' opinion. Even if we don't agree with them, we will always agree to disagree. We will respect their opinion. For an example, on Twitter, if you see, if you are sharing any information, you should always fact check, and then only you share that news. And we should never ever attack anyone personally. So personal attacks should always be avoided in social media. So with that note, we have come to the end of this chapter on online communication, synchronous communication, asynchronous communication, and netiquette. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you have any questions, you can always put it in the comment, and I will get back to you. So thank you so much, and we will meet in our next class.